Welcome into another daily editorial here on the KE Report. Going to focus a little bit more on the precious metals and some of the precious metals stocks with Jordan Roy-Byrne, founder and editor of the Daily Gold. Jordan, let's start off with the monthly closes on the charts of GDX and silver that we are really only a couple trading days away from. Now, these monthly charts and monthly closes are a very strong indication of longer-term trends, and overall, I think we can both agree that gold, silver, gold stocks, they do still look to be in a very much bullish trend, but we didn't get the same sort of breakout in the gold stocks and silver that we did in gold just this month. Please share with us some of the levels you are watching, first and foremost, for silver and the gold stocks.
For silver, it's 1850, and quite simply, yeah, it looks like we have a failed breakout in the sector. Well, especially with silver and the gold stocks, more so silver, because 1850 is really important resistance on literally any chart you want to look at. I think all the way up to the quarterly chart, but. So looking at the weekly and the end of the month is the end of this week. So with silver where it is now, let me just take a quick look at that. So it's 1784. So yeah, it's a failed breakout in silver. It's not going to close above 1850. So that's that. I mean, that doesn't mean that it's going to be weak forever after this failed breakout. It's just a failed breakout. So now turning to GDX, GDX. I mean, if it closes a little bit higher than where it is now, 30.20, if it would close higher than this, you would have a breakout on the monthly chart. But gun to my head, I think it's probably going to finish the week lower than where it is right now. We'll see. Not quite as severe of a failed breakout in GDX as we saw in silver. With respect to gold, I think, ultimately, I know we're going to talk about the fundamentals, but ultimately this next leg higher is going to be driven by the gold stocks and silver after the Fed cuts rates again. But looking at gold, technically, gold it's going to have a lot of resistance to work through. It almost reached 1700, where I mentioned there were two measured upside targets around 1700. And if you look at the monthly or the quarterly chart, there's resistance there, pretty strong resistance at 1800. There's some resistance in the 1700s. But the good thing for gold, I mean, assuming it doesn't completely fall apart from where it is now, in these last couple of days to close the month, it has closed above, or it looks like it's going to close above that 1550, 1575 area. So holding where it is now and making that monthly close, getting above that resistance, that would be significant. But what I'm saying is there's still a lot of resistance that gold has to work with or work through. From here and now and up to 1800 doesn't mean, it won't go higher, but there's so much technical resistance there that when you look at GDX, GDXJ, and also silver, they don't have as much technical resistance to work through. So that's something to keep in mind, when we do get a successful breakout attempt.
So still, this is very much a bull market. We just didn't get that breakout immediately right now from silver and the gold stocks, which continue to lag, which really do need to play catch up and start to outperform, I think, to get even more investors or some of the even stronger hands into the market. Now, you mentioned the Fed cutting rates. You and I have talked about this a number of times, and now with crashing yields and the markets showing some shakiness, the expectations are for the Fed now in the next 12 months, I think it is, to go through 3 25 basis point rate cuts. Still not a big expectation of them cutting rates in the March meeting. Not a whole lot of people are talking about that April meeting. A lot of people are looking to that June meeting. Where do you stand in terms of the next Fed move of a rate cut?
Well, as far as when that's going to happen, I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball, but I basically have been thinking over the last several weeks that we need to see the Fed make that cut for GDX and silver as well to have begin these big breakout moves and sustain that breakout move, which it was unable to do at the beginning of this week. And I just think the fundamental catalyst for that is going to be the actual cut. When the market has 100% priced in that cut where it's a done deal, that first cut, it's at that point when I think you're going to see the breakout happen. Now, I don't know if the first cut is going to be, in April or June or July. I'm not sure. The expectations for that will change every day. But I mean, if the stock market has begun some kind of correction here, who knows? Maybe you could get the first cut in April, and maybe precious metals will just kind of consolidate for another month or so before making that breakout move. So it's all conjecture at this point because the expectations change day to day. But that's my thinking is that with respect to silver and GDX especially, that next big breakout move, the trigger for that will be the market basically going from 78% or whatever that chance of a rate hike to when it's a done deal. And so I think that could happen, I don't know, a month before they cut, or 6 weeks or 4 weeks. I mean, I don't know, I'm just thinking out loud, but that's how I look at the situation. When the market is 100% convinced that the Fed is going to cut and that meeting is not too far away, I think that's when you get a successful breakout move in the sector.
Okay, so we're still just waiting for the Fed to cut rates, and you know what? They have a lot of reason to cut rates when we understand that they are very market-focused, and the fact of the matter is market showing some weakness, and yields have just flat out crashed across the board in the U.S. Jordan, when this breakout comes in the gold stocks and in silver, if it is, say, in a month or 3 or 4 or 6 months down the road, do you see a sweet spot in how to play that breakout, whether it comes to using some of the ETFs, using leveraged ETFs, or focusing on a basket of stocks?
Well, it really depends on the person. I mean, you're talking about leverage. I mean, that JNUG is a type of vehicle I would only use for gambling money. But, that's something that if people can successfully trade and handle huge volatility, that's something that might work. Although I would only use like a 3% position for that because I just view it as gambling. Looking at the gold price has already made a decent move. And so a lot of the quality producers, they've already done really, really well. So I think it's not going to be that different. I think silver stocks are would obviously get a lift more so than they have in the past. Higher cost producers would get more of a lift. And I'd also say, exploration, which we always talk about, that's still going to be those companies. I mean, you can't predict it. It's difficult to predict, but exploration success, companies that they make a discovery or they grow what they already have significantly, I think those are the ones that are going to outperform. So those are the things that I'll be looking at. But yeah, to put it simply, I think silver stocks would outperform. And I think juniors, I think the juniors that trade at like 20 cents, 10 cents, I think if and when we see GDXJ go above 50, that'll be the point in time when all boats really start rising, and then you see the small things really rising the most. Yeah, I mean, there's not like one simple answer. I mean, I have a couple comments on that, but not one simple answer.
Hey, that's fair. Finally, a breakout in the gold stocks would get that almost rising tide to lift all boats, including these ones that have been lagging. But you know what? There have been some good stories out there. They're just very selective, and that's still what I think we're waiting for, is some of the money to rotate into some of these other stocks, or quite frankly, new money to come into the sector, because recently a lot of that money, or a lot of gold bugs, are already invested, but it's this outside money that needs to take a bit more of a shine to some of these precious metal stocks. not much more to say here, Jordan, other than we will watch these monthly closes. Who knows if gold, or, well, more importantly, silver and the gold stocks can go on a run here in the last couple trading days of the month, then that could set up very well for the monthly close, but still a lot of room to cover for silver to get to that breakout level. Jordan, good chatting with you. Thanks for taking some time today. I will post a link below to your website. Have a great rest of your week, Jordan.